there. So hopefully this is working now. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late for the live today. As I say, slight technical hitch. Let me just check this is working correctly. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I think this is working now. Excellent. Okay, sorry about that. Bit late today. Right. Right, so straight on with the questions. There's a few of them today, so I will crack straight on with them, I think. Also, obviously, now slightly late anyway. The first question is it normal to feel a bit low? Oh no, is it normal to feel a bit, is this as good as it gets? I know it's probably lockdown, but the pluses of being sober feel a bit flat. I just need to be able to be smug. So what I would say is that there's this concept in recovery about the pink cloud. And it's almost kind of used that people quit and they get this massive high. And it's kind of described like a false high. So you get this like, oh, life's really perfect, life is great. But then you come crashing back to reality. And it always feels a bit flat afterwards. I don't necessarily see it that way. Because as you know, when you're drinking, it interferes with the chemical balance of your brain anyway. So you quite often feel anxious and out of sorts. And problems that would ordinarily be manageable suddenly look really overpowering and scary, and you don't want to do anything with them. You're also feeling very tired and lethargic all the time. So it's not very pleasant. When you quit drinking, your brain chemistry gets back to normal. So you start to feel a lot more resilient. You start sleeping better, your heart rate goes down, so you feel like you've got a lot more energy, and things improve massively. Now, that to me is the pink cloud. The pink cloud is sobriety. It's not drinking. It's not poisoning yourself and interfering with your brain chemistry and taking a carcinogen that's slowly killing you and ruining your life in the process. But the problem is, as humans, we start to take things for granted. And if something good happens, it soon becomes the norm. So we get used to things very quickly. So I think what happens with drinking is you stop and you suddenly realize how much better life is when you're not drinking, but you start to take it for granted. Okay. And so this is something I would always say is try not to take it for granted, because the other thing, of course, was humans, what we're very good at doing is being very critical of what we have and idolizing what we don't have. So quite often what we do is when we're drinking, we don't like it. It makes us feel tired. It's not particularly pleasant. We wake up in the middle of the night feeling anxious. We're tired all the time. We're anxious and nervous, and problems look much worse than they actually are. So we're desperate to quit, and we quit. But then when we quit, we forget the reality of it and we start idolizing it. So we forget the sleepless nights and the lying awake and the anxiety and the tiredness and all the rest of it. And we concentrate on just those one or two drinks that we think we really enjoyed and forget all the nonsense. So it's almost like we forget 95% of the reality and concentrate on just some 5% little fantasy. So what I would say is just don't ever take it for granted. Just always focus on what you've got. Just silly things like, it's over here in the UK 8:15 on a Friday, and I'm not half asleep, half sedated, crashed out on the sofa. I still feel quite good, and I'm in for a good night's sleep, and I'll feel good tomorrow. It's not been a particularly good day apart from that, but keep focused on all these positives. So someone said, I've had the same question, just over 1 year alcohol free now, and somehow I thought I would be feeling more joy about it than I am. It seems I was feeling more happiness earlier on, and it's just a flat now. Maybe this is just the new normal and I'm used to it. Well, exactly. I think it is that. But don't take it for granted, because don't forget, as I say, think about where you would be now if you were drinking. It's Friday night. You probably have had a few glasses, but that pleasant buzz that is actually just anesthetizing the anxiety caused by the previous drinks would have gone by now. And you'd probably be half asleep, half drunk on the sofa. And then tossing and turning all night, not being unable to sleep, and then feeling rubbish tomorrow. So don't let yourself take it for granted. The next question is an interesting one. Can you talk about giving children alcohol? It's a real bugbear of mine, and I totally disagree with it. Even when I drank, it's not something I do. However, I have friends that do it, and they believe it normalizes alcohol and prevents their children from drinking too much in later life. Would like to hear your views on this and any ideas on telling parents nicely that what they're doing is totally wrong. Thanks. Well, we tend to be very careful about what we give kids, and like these days we don't like to give them too much sugar, and we check it's organic and all the rest of it. Alcohol is a carcinogen. It's a class 1 carcinogen along with cigarette smoking and asbestos. Giving it to a child is like giving them a cigarette. And again, this thing about preventing them from normalizing it and preventing it, normalizing alcohol is a horrible concept. It's a drug, an addictive drug that ruins lives and kills people. Okay. And forget chronic alcohol dependent people, even just a couple of glasses of wine a couple of times a week. What does it do? It's a carcinogen that leaves you slightly dulled before then leaving an unpleasant, anxious feeling that ruins your sleeping pattern and leaves you tired the next day. Also accelerates your heart rate. And of course, when your heart rate goes up, your body tells you to sit down and rest, which is why drinkers are always very lethargic and very tired all the time. It's a horrible thing to do. It shouldn't be normalized at all. It should be seen for what it is, which is an addictive drug that unfortunately 80% of the population are either physically or at least psychologically dependent on. So yeah, I think it's ridiculous. It's the same as giving a child a cigarette. It's just not something, and I think things are changing, of course. People's views on alcohol are changing slowly. But no, giving children alcohol is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Horrendous. Someone's put, can you talk about living with an everyday drinker, please? I know it's our own journey, but it would be so much easier if I could rid the house of alcohol instead of being surrounded by it. Well, I suppose there's 2 points there. One, it's a house you're living in, and if you have a view on how it should be run, then you should at least get a 50% say in that. But secondly, I mean, we have alcohol in this house, and it just doesn't bother me in the least because I have no reason to drink it. In the same way, if my wife injected heroin, I wouldn't particularly bother me from a personal perspective that I'd be worrying about taking it myself. I have no interest in it anymore. So you might want to have a conversation to say, I don't want it in my house. It's also my house, so I get a say in this. But I would also say, if it's worrying you, you might have a bit of work to do yourself anyway. The next question is, can you push the reading of your books when joining? I do like seeing the different ideas, but it's very frustrating when it's obvious that some haven't read your books. That is a constant source of irritation. And in fact leads on to the next question a bit. But unfortunately, people do lie. They just say, yes, I'll read the book or go on the website, and then clearly don't bother. And it's difficult then to police it. So thank you everyone who gets on these posts and recommends the books, because I do think actually people come into the group not having read the books and end up reading them, and it generally, the feedback is that it helps them. So hopefully it does help some people to find the books anyway. The next question, how can you shut down the internal dialogue trying to sabotage your sobriety, like you've had a hard day, you deserve a drink? Well, again, that's a bit of a mindset thing, isn't it? Because I had a hard day today and I didn't want to drink, in the same way I had a hard day today and I didn't want to take a nail and hammer it through my hand. It's an unpleasant thing to do. It would give me no benefit. So why on earth would I want to do it? If you feel like you need a reward, then plan a reward. Something that isn't horrible is usually a good reward. We tend to reward ourselves with pleasant things rather than unpleasant things. And rewarding yourself with something vile that's going to make you feel slightly dulled and then make you feel unpleasantly anxious isn't much of a reward anyway. So maybe have a rethink about what you see as a reward and what you see as a genuine reward, something actually pleasant that you can do to yourself that will make you feel genuinely good. Can you help me get over my obsession with checking the days on my app? I check it first thing in the morning, and that should be more than enough. But then I find myself checking it throughout the day too. I suppose that is, it's not going to change day in one day, is it? It's a true definition of insanity. How can I let go of this need to keep track? I am annoying myself quite a lot. Thanks in advance for all your wisdom and time. Just for the record, today is 165. Well, firstly, congratulations on 165, because what's that? That's like half a year, isn't it? Getting on for 6 months, which is fantastic. So I was getting quite good at this in that I'm constantly checking my phone and it irritates me. So before lockdown, I was actually getting to the point where I would go into work and I would put my phone down and I would not look at it all day. I just wouldn't touch it. And it felt really liberating. And then lockdown came and I tend to be at home bored, and I pick my phone up quite a lot now, for various reasons. But I mean, if it's genuinely irritating you, and particularly if you're hitting the 6-month mark, you might want to think about, do I want to stop recording days? You've got the date presumably in your diary. I mean, I never counted days, but I remember it was 12th or 13th of February that I stopped. I'll have to double check. So that's coming up actually. But you could just delete the app, because if it's not there, the temptation won't be there to keep looking at it. But for me, I think checking the phone all the time is more of a symptom of either being bored or disengaged in what's going on around you. Because I find when I'm doing something I'm interested in, I don't check my phone. But when I'm bored or irritated with what's going on in my life, I tend to pick my phone up just to kind of look somewhere else. So again, that could be a double thing. You could try just deleting the app completely, or trying to fill your days up with more enjoyable things, which I appreciate is extremely difficult at the moment. I have a question, please. I love the books, recognise alcohol as addictive and therefore problematic in my own personal universe, yet am considered by all as a normal, healthy drinker. When I stop, I feel better. A couple of weeks in, I feel great, but then a feeling of boredom kicks in. Like feeling healthy and well slept somehow isn't enough, and I decide the holier than now living just isn't cutting it. So I drink wine only for the cycle to repeat. How to break through and connect with reality, playing it forward, and knowledge of ambition loses traction for me in the moment. Is it lazy thinking on my part? Well, I suppose there's a few points there. Firstly, it's an interesting one that you say I'm considered as a normal, healthy drinker. Normal and healthy, we kind of touched on that a bit anyway. There's no normal and healthy when it comes to drinking alcohol. It's like saying I'm a normal, healthy cocaine addict or a normal, healthy heroin addict. And also, it's not their decision, it's your decision. You decide what is right for you. And the days of people approaching this by saying to themselves, am I alcoholic? If yes, stop drinking. If no, continue drinking, are long gone. People are doing a very simple thing now and looking at this substance and saying, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of it? And what is it taking from me? Hang on, it's taking loads and giving me virtually nothing. So I'm going to stop doing it. So whoever is saying this, that you're a normal, healthy drinker, are sort of living in the dark ages with regard understanding addiction and alcohol. It's so it's just ridiculous. And yes, part of it is going to be ambition. It's what I talked about before, where when you're drinking, the reality is the increased heart rate, the withdrawal, so you're feeling anxious, it's the lack of sleep, it's the feeling heavy and tired and anxious all at the same time, and getting out of bed feeling tired and dragging yourself through the day, and every problem looks more difficult than it is because you're tired and your brain chemistry is out of whack. Okay. That's the reality of drinking. But when we quit, we don't look at that. We look at that one tiny time we thought we really enjoyed a drink, or we think about drinking at Christmas or on holiday, the times where we supposedly really enjoy it. And that's what we concentrate on. So you do need to start getting a bit more with reality, because as I say, it's the thought and not the reality that drags us back in. Okay. If drinking was what you think it is when you quit drinking, you'd never have quit in the first place. And that's the reality you need to stick with. The reason you're stopping is because it's not pleasant. And in many ways, this is sort of the central misery of not just drinkers, but any drug addicts, in that the reality of life with the drug is unpleasant. So with drinking, it's the tiredness, the lethargy, the anxiety, the waking up in the middle of the night, exhausted, but completely unable to get back to sleep. And so we quit drinking, but then we forget all of that. And we think about that time we were on holiday, sat on the balcony, having a nice glass of something, and that becomes the reality. So we start again. But of course, when you start, you don't go back to the fantasy, you go back to the reality. So you go back to this dark and horrible experience, and then you want to quit again. And it does, for many people, it is this ongoing cycle between taking the drug and not taking it. When you're taking it, you're miserable, so you quit. But when you quit, you're miserable. So what you need to start doing, and I mentioned it a bit earlier, don't lose sight of the benefits of drinking, and don't lose sight of the reality of drinking. Don't lose sight of the benefits of sobriety, and don't lose sight of the reality of drinking. When people first stop, say the first month or so, why is it one of the most heard complaints, difficulties, boredom? I know a lot of people have done dry January saying they are very bored. 6 months into being alcohol free, I don't have that feeling anymore. Sometimes I get bored, of course, but I don't relate to alcohol consumption or lack thereof. So this is just a basic addiction issue. Okay, when you're addicted to something, you need it to cope with and enjoy life. Okay, so a simple thing, let's just take an example, like you finish work for the day and you put the TV on. Okay, if you're not addicted to anything, you can sit and enjoy watching TV. If you're addicted to something, you cannot engage in what's going on in the TV because you're thinking about the dose of your drug, and without it, you're obsessing about it. So you can't really concentrate on anything else because you're constantly thinking about the drug that you want to take. And a lot of people translate as that is boredom. They've got nothing to do. They don't watch TV. They don't read a book. They can't talk to people. They don't enjoy it because they're addicted to a drug and they need it to enjoy their lives. It's that simple. It really, the symptom of that is just going about stopping drinking in the wrong way. It's just stopping and hoping everything will be all right without actually understanding things fully and having a proper mechanism in place for coping with the bad times. But that's where the boredom thing comes in. It's just boredom is really not having something to engage and entertain you. And the reason when people quit alcohol, they don't find things engaging or entertaining because they're not really thinking about that particular thing. They're too busy fussing in their mind about whether or not to drink or how miserable they are not drinking. The last question, can you please address the oh so heated topic of banning alcohol? It appears to have stirred some strong feelings and responses in the group. So this, I think this relates to, there was a post in the Facebook group, and it was by someone, I forget what it exactly said, but it was something along the lines of, we should stop drinking, we should try and ban alcohol. And something like, wouldn't life be better if we could ban alcohol? So that kind of topic, it's actually, it should engage some quite interesting arguments because there are some good arguments around it. Firstly, why isn't it banned? And there's some historical reasons behind that. And, you know, there's the old comment that if it was discovered today, it wouldn't be legalized. No, it certainly wouldn't be. There's also the question of, is it practical? How do you go about it? And we've got the lessons of prohibition to show that it didn't, when you banned alcohol, when they banned alcohol in the US, it didn't just fail to stop people drinking, but it actually built up these massive crime syndicates. So it should have come up with some fairly interesting arguments. And of course, then there's a lot of discussion around advertising and how that impacts things. But amongst all this interesting discussion, there was almost like this, I don't know, these medieval peasants jumped up from nowhere to say, and it was quite a substantial number of people who were saying, well, this is our problem. We're the damaged ones. All these other normal drinkers are fine. They're okay. So why should we spoil this wonderful, healthy, fun thing they do, which is drinking alcohol? And as I say, it was a bit of it was almost like just having a normal conversation with someone and them suddenly saying, the world's about to end. I've just seen a lamb born with a caul on its face, or something ridiculous. Or, you know, you're talking about flying around the world to Australia and someone pipes up and says, how can you do that? The world is flat. You expect it out side amongst the general population who don't understand alcohol and what it actually does. But it was a bit strange seeing it in the Facebook group, to be honest, where, and again, maybe this comes back to people not having read the books or been on the website to actually understand what Alcohol Explained is all about. But that was I think that was the issue. It wasn't so much the topic of banning alcohol, but where it became a problem was, as I say, these, I want to say backward people, maybe I should do, who had this view that we're all substantially damaged, and the normal, happy, healthy people who can enjoy the myriad healthy benefits of alcohol, why should we spoil their fun? So it's maybe worth just talking around that topic slightly. So for a start, alcohol is a chemical depressant. So it inhibits nerve activity, it sedates people. Okay, so that's why we tend to feel more relaxed after a drink. But of course, the brain reacts to that, and it reacts to it by becoming more sensitive so it can still work efficiently under the sedating effects of the alcohol. And then the alcohol wears off, but that overstimulation remains for a period. And it's kind of like drinking two. So in one dose, it's almost imperceptible. You just feel slightly out of sorts, slightly nervous, but you might not even notice it. But in higher doses, it starts to feel more and more like anxiety and even out and out depression. Now, the key here is the first time you ever drink alcohol in your life, your brain's never encountered it. So it doesn't really know what to do with it. So if you have 2 or 3 drinks, you're likely to be quite intoxicated because the brain just doesn't know how to react to it. But as the weeks turn into months and into years, and you drink more and more and more and more regularly, the brain becomes increasingly proficient at countering the sedating effects of the alcohol. So the knock-on effect of that is twofold. Firstly, you become more, you're able to drink more and more, but because the brain can become increasingly hypersensitive so that you can drink more and more alcohol. But of course, the knock-on effect of that is when the alcohol wears off, the withdrawal's worse. So as you go through life drinking regularly and more, the chemical withdrawal gets worse. But something else happens as well. Your mind starts to learn on a subconscious level that an alcoholic drink will remove that unpleasant feeling. So what you start to learn over time is when you finish an alcoholic drink, after a period of time, you get an unpleasant feeling that needs another alcoholic drink to get rid of it. Okay. When you learn that, it cannot be unlearned. And when you learn that, that is when you no longer have an off switch. And this is what you quite often hear from people. I don't have an off switch. I can, they can have a drink and they just stop. I have a drink and I can't stop. Therefore, I'm different to them. Well, you're only different to them in that you've drunk maybe a bit longer and a bit more than them. You've learned on a conscious and unconscious level, subconscious level, that when the alcohol wears off, there's an unpleasant feeling that needs another dose, another alcoholic drink to get rid of it. They're not there yet. They may never get there. Okay. If you only ever have in your life 1 or 2 drinks once a week, you will probably never get there. But this is one of my questions. Why would anyone only ever have 1 or 2 drinks once a week if they really enjoy it? And that brings me on to a main point. These so-called normal drinkers, the reasons people can drink for years and years only ever having 1 or 2, they don't really enjoy it to begin with. So they don't actually drink enough to become addicted. So that's the first point. The idea that we are different from normal drinkers is absolutely ridiculous. We're all of us on a path to addiction by imbibing an addictive drug. We're just a bit further down the line. So my friends and we all went out on a Friday and Saturday night and we drank to get drunk. So I always drank as heavily as I possibly could 2 or 3 times a week. So I was always going to end up with some kind of problem with it. Some people didn't. But this is, again, how I see it. And you don't have to accept this at all. But for me, when I was at school and I started drinking, the people that went out and started drinking loads, they were the fun people. They were the risk takers. They were the ones that were a laugh and went out and did stupid things. And they were the people I enjoyed being with. The people that had 1 or 2 drinks and then, that's my limit. I don't like losing control. I always thought they were complete idiots. So far from envying normal drinkers, I still do think they're on a different plane to me, because these are the people in their 40s. If people get to 40s and 50s without any problem with alcohol, it's because they're these timid individuals who just were so afraid of it. They just, and probably rightly so, they probably had a better time than I did. But they just never drank that much. And also, fast forwarding it as well, I don't look at other people. So the people who are still drinking and don't consider they have an alcohol problem, for me, fall into two categories. One, people that have just never drunk enough to become addicted to it, or two, people that are addicted to it but just don't admit it. They deny it, and they post these ridiculous memes on Facebook and all this nonsense making light of it, because they do have a problem with it, but they just don't admit it. And on a very basic level, even these so-called normal drinkers, if you say to them, do you enjoy a night without alcohol? So if you're going out socializing, would you rather be drinking or not drinking? They will say, I'd rather be drinking. So what they're really saying is they need a chemical substance in order to enjoy their life. They may not be physically dependent on it, but they're definitely psychologically independent on it, because they can't enjoy a night out without alcohol. So as I see it, it's almost like two branches of people. When you start drinking, it's the timid people who don't drink a lot. It's the people who drink a lot that develop a problem. But then further down the line, there's another branch as well. There's people who have got the courage and foresight to think, this is not right. I am not happy with this, and I'm going to do something about it. And they're the people that try and stop. Now, whether you've quit or you haven't quit, the fact of the matter is you've at least had the balls to think to yourself, this is wrong. I'm going to stop burying my head in the sand about it and lying to myself and everyone that it's right and natural, and try and actually do something about it. So I don't see that anyone is different, other than they're at a different stage in the journey of drinking. I think it's also worth mentioning with this, alcohol, remember what it's actually doing. It's making you feel scared and timid, and then relieving that feeling of timidity. It's like a horrible little comfort blanket. People drink because life looks scary and they need that alcohol. The people that stop drinking are the brave ones who have had the foresight and the courage to say to themselves, I'm not putting up with this anymore. The people that are still drinking and lying to themselves are like the people with their snotty little comfort blanket that they can't possibly bear to be separated from. So as I say, whether you've stopped drinking, or you're trying to stop drinking, or you're trying and failing, or whatever it is, you're a million miles ahead of those people who are just burying their heads in the sand and pretending it's all fine when it clearly isn't. I'm not sure if there's I'll just check and see if I can't always get the questions, actually, to be honest, but I'll see what I can do here. See how many comments. Let's have a look. Okay, yeah, I don't think there's any particular questions, but anyway, I hope that was useful for everyone. I think next week I've got it's guest week next week. So I've got let me just in fact, I'll have to double check. I've got a list of people on now, but I'll post later in the week who's on. So next week will be guest week, and the week after that you're stuck with me ranting as usual. But have a good weekend, everyone, and I shall see you next week.